The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, welcome everybody by the webinar Discover the Technical and Business Value of the MOBiNET Core Components. It will take 1 hour. Before giving the screen to Janki Dodia from DLR, who will be your moderator for the whole webinar, I will give just a few instructions on how this webinar will go. I will give a small introduction on the MOBiNET platform and the core components, then hand over. Janki will explain the Service Support Center, and then we will dive into the MOBiNET components themselves. Today we have 5 different components or topics we will cover: the communication agent, the MOBiAGENT, the data quality assessment, the SDK, and the privacy and security. In the webinar of last week, 6 other components: the dashboard, the billing, the identity manager, the service directory, the analytics server, and the TSP manager were covered. After we go into the detail of these 5 components, a presentation on the MOBiNET components from the business perspective will be given by Rasmus Lindholm, the coordinator, and then we have 10 minutes for your questions and our answers to those questions. On the right side, there is a collapse menu, and if you have any problems with the audio, you can use the audio setup on that. And by clicking on View, you can adjust what you see. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can type them in this same drop menu, and they will be answered in the end of the webinar. First, here's a link which is available, and that's linking to the MOBiNET website, where you can find all information on MOBiNET and also on the MOBiNET webinars. I click on this link and you can do the same. There you go, and there are the webinars which are held so far. The 12th of December we had a webinar on the whole platform, and last week and this week we have the webinars on the individual components. So you can look the webinar from the 12th of December and also the webinar from last week. You can look them back at this location. I just want to show one picture, and that is the overall overview of the MOBiNET platform. Here you can see all 11 topics or components of the MOBiNET platform as mentioned before. And today, so we will cover the remaining 5 components which are left to be discussed. That having said, I think it's time to give the floor to Janki Dodia from DLR, who will first explain the Service Support Center, where there will be much more information available on what we are explaining now in this hour, and then we will go into the different components. So I will give the screen now to Janki, so she can pick it up from here.
Thank you, Peter Paul. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Peter Paul, again. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Janki Dodia from German Aerospace Center. I'm the lead of the technical work package for MOBiNET, and the core objective of this work package has been to develop the MOBiNET platform, which consisted of several components, some of which we are covering today. The objective of MOBiCenter has been to provide a platform and infrastructure which allows creation and usage of Europe-wide mobility services. And to achieve this, MOBiNET brought together a large consortium of experts, including expert developers, provider companies, and research organizations. And well, without further ado, I will start my presentation about the MOBiNET Service Support Center. And to support the MOBiNET users, the registered MOBiNET users, we are providing a service support center. The Service Support Center is the first point for users who need information about the MOBiNET platform for usage of the platform or for its component or for developing purpose. And it is basically a website integrated on the dashboard. Here you can see it. And there's this a tab which has 3 main parts or widgets, which is terms of service, contact information and support center. The support center here, as you can see, is the main point where you can see here the highlighted information in red menu with all the topics, including the overview of MOBiNET. I'll go to the next slide. If you open these menus, you can find the subtopics here. So here is, for example, the service deployment section, which provides information about, for instance, service development kit, tools to develop and deploy and operate services in MOBiNET. You can also find information on component APIs, and you can also find detailed information about, for instance, service description files and dashboard, how to use the dashboard, how to use these widgets here. And there's also a troubleshooting section that provides you with the frequently asked questions. There's videos for developers. There's documentation of all the related to all the component APIs, and also you can find the service development kit manual here as well, and information about all the components in detail. One important thing to note about Service Support Center is that it is mainly divided into two user groups. So if you are a normal end user, then you are only allowed to see sections about the basic usage of the platform. But if you have the developer rights, then you are able to see information for developing purpose like API of components and developing for services. So here you can see this is how the normal user can view. There are three possible set of information that you can see as a normal user. And when you have the developer rights, you can see all the extensive information about service deployment. As I mentioned earlier, the other two parts of the support tab is terms of service. It is a section that provides the terms for usage of MOBiNET platform and its services. And it provides so that the access to and the use of services conditioned on users' acceptance of and compliance with these terms. You also have a contact tab where you can find contact information through which a user can contact the platform owner to get the developer rights, which is the first here, and the second second contact is for technical support for developers. So that is all. Thank you very much for listening to me about the Service Support Center. Before we move on to the next sessions, I just want to remind everyone there will be an interactive polling at the end of the seminar, and there will be also question and answer sessions. So if you have any question and answers, you can just send it to us, and the organizers will forward these questions to me, and I can forward these questions to the component leaders. Okay, moving on now, the next presentation is for communication agent from Tarakeshwar Rao from NEC Europe. I will to you, Tarak.
Yes, sorry. I just want confirmation whether you could see my screen well and clear.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so good. So hello all, welcome to this presentation on communication agent. I am Tarakeshwar Rao, working on development of this component, and I work for NEC Europe Labs Heidelberg. So let's just go through a short overview on the table of contents which I would like to present. So we'll have a short look into the architecture, MOBiNET architecture, the role of CA with respect to this whole architecture, and just go through the status of various releases. This is a general overview of the entire MOBiNET architecture. So so you could see the communication agent marked here, and there are several actors in this whole architecture. So mostly pertaining to the end user, which is basically the communication agent, and also you have several service providers who could distribute some data to this end user. So So these are the two vital actors with respect to communication agent, and I will just present you the small introduction on the internal structure of the communication agent so that you get a better understanding. And so this is the internal architecture of a communication agent. So the communication agent has an provides an interface to service providers via REST API. So service providers could send service messages to the HTTP server of the communication agent, and this is distributed to various CMs available on the network. So here the communication agent is basically acting like a geographical router, disseminating data based on a particular geometrical region, and on top of it, the data which is coming from CMs are also published to an RabbitMQ exchange, and any service provider or any user who wants access to this floating data could just fetch it from RabbitMQ based on subscribed topics. And so this is the overview of the architecture of communication agent. And so this has we have already done with release 3, and there were several features which were developed as part of release 3. So some of the features were like the CM keeps updating its data to CA via CAM messages. So once when the CM goes out of scope or when it stops sending data, then these fields are automatically removed from CA via a process of automatic catch invalidation. And also a REST API has been provided for service providers to distribute data. So they could just automate this HTTP request to send any specific data to specific users in a particular region. And let me go to the next status. So basically for release 3.1 we had several issues. There were some performance improvements which had some bugs on the CA, and because of this, the release pertaining to 3.1 had to be postponed to 4.0. Subsequently, we had also some firewall issues on the MOBiNET platform. So because of these two reasons, the releases pertaining to 3.1 were pushed to release 4.0. So as far as R4 is concerned, these were the new requirements and which were already developed in 3.1, and we have now the HTTP interface which could be authenticated by means of access to identity manager. So any user who wants to publish data has to provide credentials to the CA through which he will be authenticated, and then if he goes through with it, then the data is published. RabbitMQ topic delivery has also been developed as far as feature requirement MD883 is concerned, and with this the service provider, any user could get data from RabbitMQ. He has access to the floating car data which comes from CM, and there has been several automation pertaining to the testing of CA as well. So these 4 requirements features were developed, and these are planned to be released for R4. And we had some performance improvements done on the CA to provide a much stable interface to the service providers, and also at the same time provide more usage. And so CA is supposed to be developed, is supposed to be deployed tomorrow, and yeah. So this is all I have to present pertaining to CA, and yeah, I could probably return the screen. So I'm done with CA. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Tarak. The next presentation is about MOBiAGENT by Bashan Weising from TNO. Bashan, over to you.
Yes. So I suppose everybody can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Bas Wissing from TNO, and within the project I'm mainly responsible for developing the MOBiAGENT. So brief introduction. As you can see in the architectural overview that has been presented in an earlier presentation, the MOBiAGENT is basically the counterpart of the MOBiCenter that you can see here on the left within the red circle. The MOBiAGENT is an Android application with basically three main purposes. So it is used to provide end users with an interface towards the MOBiNET platform in order to be able to browse everything that is published within the service directory of the MOBiNET platform, and also to directly install additional applications on one's Android device. Next to that, it will also handle hybrid ITS communication via ITS G5 and cellular. And this is connected to the communication agent that has just been presented. So via this way, service providers are able to disseminate ITS-related information to all MOBiAGENT devices. And the third purpose of the MOBiAGENT is to provide application developers with easy APIs to MOBiNET services. So in this case, for example, single sign-on functionality. So somebody can log in with the MOBiAGENT or on the MOBiAGENT with his MOBiNET account. And there are APIs provided to service developers that want to develop their own application in order to make use of this single sign-on functionality. But also the hybrid ITS communication kind of functionality is available via the APIs. This gives a short overview of the layout of the MOBiAGENT. So basically from the up left is the start screen of the Android application. Once it's started up, you can log in with your MOBiNET account. And at the moment, there's basically one application pre-installed within the MOBiAGENT, which provides you access to the MOBiNET service directory. So when you click on that icon in the second image, you'll end up at the third image, and then you'll enter the service directory itself. You can there browse for services, and once you find a service that suits your needs, you can install it via clicking on the corresponding information in this service description, and the application will be automatically installed on your MOBiAGENT. So that's so far a brief introduction to the MOBiAGENT component.
Thank you, Bastian. The next presentation is about data quality assessment by Jihad Kiari from NEC. Over to you, Jihad.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I'm Jihad Kiari from NEC Labs Europe. I worked on the DQA tools with Francesco, and I'm going to present both today. Okay, so the aim is to assess the quality of traffic data, since now we have abundant amounts of data, and it's interesting to be able to judge whether the data is useful or not for multiple applications. So we focused on two types of data: fixed traffic data that we get from sensors, for example, and floating vehicle data, which is GPS traces from different fleets of vehicles. And the indicators, the quality indicators that we developed, focused on two aspects: value and veracity. The value is more descriptive of the data. So, for example, we can see if the data has some parts that are not covered. So, for example, if the data has a certain granularity or not. And the veracity addresses logical precision, for example, or accuracy of the GPS traces in comparison with the road network. And in order to be able to compare the quality between different data sets, we made sure that the indicators are normalized between 0 and 1, 1 being the best value. So the floating vehicle data is basically describes basically the location of the vehicle over time, and it can be obtained from different fleets like taxis, shared transport, and to detail the indicators, we have granularity and missing data that address the value, reliability, and accuracy that address the veracity of the data. As for fixed traffic data, it's more it's obtained from the sensors, and we have 4 kinds of indicators, and they are zero occupancy, non-zero occupancy with zero flow, high occupancy, and constant measure. Okay, and to shortly describe the component, it's the 2 components actually. We have the widget interface to access the DQA via the MOBiNET dashboard, and the web-based REST API to access the DQA that calculates the quality for fixed traffic data. And we use the OAuth protocol for authentication. So the widget was developed in HTML5 and jQuery. It's uploaded on the MOBiNET dashboard, and the user is required to upload a dataset in a CSV format with basic 4 columns, which are trip ID, GPS time, GPS latitude, and GPS longitude. And via an AJAX call to our service, we can calculate the indicators and return them back to the widget. As for the REST API, it's used using this URL, and we have also developed a demonstration client based on different protocols, such as RabbitMQ or the Simon protocol. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jihad. The next presentation is about the Service Development Kit. And this will be presented by Andreas Rickling from German Aerospace Center. So, Andreas, over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, so we see a nice image.
Ah, very good. Okay, let's start. My name is Andreas Rickling from DLR in Brunswick, and today I will you introduce to the Components Service Development Kit, in short SDK. The main focus of the SDK is to provide manuals, documents, and tools for developers. With the help of the SDK, the developer should be able to deploy new services, or maybe he wants to migrate existing services to the MOBiNET platform. For this, we provide also tutorials, for example, a step-by-step guide, how to develop a simple service in Java. We have checklists for test preparation. This is useful, for example, troubleshooting a service when you get some problems in your development steps. And also, we provide for the Java language simple libraries to use the MOBiNET service directory and the identity manager. Furthermore, we show in the SDK information about other components, like the privacy framework and related other components. These are just basic informations, because all the other information you can find in the corresponding deliverables or in the SSC. Okay, this now shows the Service Support Center. We call it SDK++, because it provides all the information of the SDK and a little bit more. On the left, there is a menu, tools for MOBiNET SDK. And also you see here the tutorial example bus service, and you can see here also the tools for MOBiNET SDK. We provided in the SDK document as well. It's, for example, the Eclipse SDK editor, the MOBiNET standalone editor, and the libraries for the service directory and the library for the identity manager. Yeah, you can find here also the troubleshooting section and the related documents, where you can find all information about the development of the identity manager, for example, or the development of the service directory. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Andreas. The next presentation is by Thierry Jacquin from Xerox. It's about privacy and security. Over to you, Thierry.
Okay, I'm Thierry Jacquin from Xerox Research Center Europe. I will introduce now the MOBiNET privacy framework. So please notice that this framework is not really a component, in the sense that it's not something that is plugged into the MOBiNET platform itself, but it's used to help services or MOBiNET components to become privacy aware. So we will see how in the next slide. So the idea is to imagine that the platform, a MOBiNET platform, has to become something like a food platform, a food industry platform, where you need to add some charter about privacy management. It can become a business aspect, or it is sometimes more regulatory aspects to be managed by platform, MOBiNET platforms themselves. So we have a number of challenges behind this idea of being conformed to a charter or being conformed to a regulatory aspect. So the platform needs to adapt any new incoming service to this charter. And also the platform needs to adapt the charter to the regulation where the platform is deployed. And so in that case, you have to readapt the services themselves, or the same when you try to replicate a platform somewhere else where the regulatory rules are different. So all the challenge is about adapting the services or the platform to the protection you want to provide to the platform users. So the MOBiNET privacy framework is a set of tools helping to this adaptation, and what we did in the MOBiNET project itself is to deliver a first POC, a first proof of concept of that it can be done at a very low development effort. So this is what we will show, and the methodology and the set of tools too in the next slides. So the purpose of the adaptation is of many aspects, and all of them are more and more demanding. So the first level of adaptation is to say, if you want to provide a platform, you have to adapt the services to the charter of the platform. So one of the conditions is not to ask to the service that wants to plug in the platform to be redeveloped from scratch, from the beginning, just to be conformed to the charter. So the idea is to say, now what we say is the privacy engineering must be done at the time of the deployment on the platform, and not from the beginning adding some privacy specific requirements to the component itself. So this is the first level. The second level is to say, in fact, it has to be integrated in the general workflow of the privacy engineering, which starts by a privacy impact assessment session coming from the privacy officer of the service delivery. And so, in fact, the conclusion, the risks identified by the privacy impact assessment must be, in fact, the requirements of the privacy engineering phase itself. So this says that it's one more reason to say this must happen at the deployment time. And then what we can add as a supplementary requirement or expectation is to say that, but having this set of requirements specific to privacy for this component, it would be good to be able to generate a privacy by default management straightforward. Just having this identification of risks, being able to have a privacy by default protection for the data that has been identified as at risk. Okay, and the last level of requirement or dream, if you want, would be to say, but we are also able to adapt the component to the users themselves. So they could say, okay, I'm protected by default by the privacy management that is provided by the platform, the MOBiNET platform, but then I want to release some of this privacy by default aspect because I want to benefit more from the services, and for that I'm able to take the risk of disclose some of the protected by default personal data that are managed by the service. And more or less this range of levels of demanding levels of adaptations are addressed by the MOBiNET privacy framework and by the set of tools that has been delivered, and this set of tools is based on model-driven techniques. And the first one is just to make the privacy by default aspect for a component that wants to register in the MOBiNET platform. So the tool is doing that only, the implementation we gave is only for Java components, but there is no reason except technical reason. In principle, it could be anything that can be introspective. And you don't need to import the source code of the service, and you will generate automatically, so this corresponds to the third level of expectation. You will generate a privacy by default manager just by marking the data that needs to be protected. And then on top of this, user consents, so this notion of consent that is expected by the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation of Europe, for example. This notion of consent is implemented in the tool this way. So user consents become de-anonymation components. So the user can say for explicit personal information, for explicit purpose, for specific roles that is addressed by the service. So it can be for administrative roles or for nominal roles or for whatever roles that is declared by the service itself. And then in this kind of configuration, you can say the user can say the level of visibility he gives to the application. And this is done through, as it was mentioned at the beginning, through model-driven techniques, so per pure generation. So you skip straightforward from the business, you skip this development phase. There is no real code, or maybe 90% of the code is done to become operational. So the rules that you have there coming from your privacy assessment becomes automatically operational in your platform. Okay. Thanks to this aspect generation, also that is provided by introspective languages. Sorry. So now, just to sum up, who must do what with the set of tools that are provided in MOBiNET. First, the service provider, when he wants to submit a service, can associate a privacy by default manager to this. So he will use the MOBiNET privacy framework to generate the privacy manager. The MOBiNET platform administrator will deploy the service plus the privacy manager if he wants, or if he considers that the privacy manager has to be delivered to be conformed to the charter, for example. So he will deploy both of them. This one will provide both of them. And once this service is deployed with the privacy manager, then it's in a degraded mode. So this means that all the protected data are anonymized, okay? And sometimes the service can be poor. So in that case, the user will come and will edit his consent in line with the privacy manager, which declares the kind of roles and purposes that are declared by the service, and also the protected data. And with this material, he will be able to write a consent and to deploy this consent saying, for this purpose and this role, for example, I give a full visibility for my name or my address or whatever. And he will be able to generate this consent, and this consent will be uploaded to the privacy management component that is deployed by the MOBiNET administrator. Okay, that's the principle of how you can use the MOBiNET privacy framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Thierry. So we move on now to the next part, which is the business perspective presentation, which will be given by Julie Castermans from Ethico. Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Yankee. Yes, good day, everyone. I'm Julie Castermans. I'm part of the MOBiNET coordination team at Ethico, and I'm filling in for my colleague Rasmus Lindom, the MOBiNET coordinator. So, yeah, what is the key value of MOBiNET? That is really this e-marketplace, and the fact that it's a multi-vendor one and a Europe-wide or even global one. Can you? Because I don't see. Thank you. So at the core of this marketplace, there is a platform that will support the delivery of services and data to private and commercial users. So it is a platform designed to accommodate both service and data providers, but also the users, whether business or private ones. And then it's a platform that will support multiple business models, both for public and private service providers. So it is designed, to support the goals of both the public sector, whether sustainability, mobility, or road safety goals, but also of the private one, that is mainly to increase their business share. Next slide, please. The platform, or the core, let's say, is really the MOBI Center. The platform is designed so that it can integrate content from a variety of providers across borders, that is, from a variety of locations across the world. It is important to remind us that it does not store data. It stores information about the services. And then the components it contains are meant to ensure that all users can do what they need to do in an effective, comfortable, and respectful of business rules kind of way. So the MOBI Center is managing the flow of information from the service and content providers to service developers and end users. The MOBiAGENT, as Bastien explained to you, is really the tool or the interface for end users on handheld devices. And SDK and dashboard are the entry points and support tool for service developers to develop new services or enrich their existing offering. So in short, MOBiNET has been designed from the start as a business platform that is aiming to ensure that it can be used by all who need to deliver services. Thank you.
Back to you, Yankee.
Thank you, Julie. And now we will be moving on to the poll questions. So you will see the poll questions in front of you, and please provide your feedback.
Launch it. Okay, I will close the poll now, and we share the results.
Oh, great. You see a very fine distribution between the components. Okay, so as Julie explained, MOBiNET is an internet-based network linking the travelers, the transport users, the transport system operators, service providers, content providers, and transport infrastructure. So basically, it connects the users, who can be people, businesses, objects, with suppliers and brokers, or help to broker their interactions. And this is all enabled by these component and tools, which our component leaders have worked hard to develop. Okay, moving on now to the question and answer round. So please bring your questions. So there was a question earlier, I think, which was, is MOBiAGENT available in Google Play? For the moment, not, but we are looking into making it available on Google Play, and we will be providing a link via MOBiNET.eu platform. And talking about MOBiNET.eu platform, again, I would like to remind everyone that you can find this webinar on MOBiNET.eu platform. And to add the availability, going back to the question, in the Play Store, we are currently giving access in a controlled way via a beta program. Is there any other question? Then our component leaders are here to answer all your questions.
No further questions, Janki. I think we can conclude.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the component leaders, Julie, Peter, Paul, and thank you, everyone, for participating in the webinar.
Just to conclude, one final remark. So we see here a slide that shows that MOBiNET, doesn't finish here. The project will run until this summer. There will be a MOBiNET final live demonstrations at the ITS European Congress in Strasbourg. So please come and visit us at the MOBiNET stand. Also check out the latest news on the MOBiNET website, and maybe there will be additional news articles, potentially webinars, information updates on the demonstrations that will take place in Strasbourg. So please stay in touch with us. Also join us, as the banner says. Please visit the platform. You go to the website, you look on the right-hand side on the home page where you will see the banner, join the MOBiNET platform, click on it. The whole procedure is explained there. You can just log in simply to visit and to see what's going on, or you can alternatively ask for a password and so that you can visit it. You have a more in-depth visit and potentially become, a real contributor and test it with your use case. So these component webinars, I hope, helped you to really understand better the MOBiNET concept. But this is not the end. You will receive more information on it, but it is to be continued. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.